version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on into the conversation. I am simulcasting on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube as well as LinkedIn. I want to thank you for joining me and subscribing. I have a bunch of new subscribers, so thanks for your attention and thanks for sharing this video. If you are new to the conversation, then we want to welcome you. I'm sure you're going to find something that interests you and that you're going to want to like and share and subscribe. If you are returning to the conversation, we want to welcome you back. Today we're talking about should killer cops hide their identities? It's been almost a month since cops in Minneapolis crept into an apartment where Amir Locke slept to serve a no-knock search warrant on somebody else who was not Amir Locke. And within about 4 seconds after they entered, they shot and killed Amir, just 22 years old. Mark Hanneman is the name of the cop who shot Locke. Hanneman is on administrative leave right now while the police department claims that they're investigating the behavior and the what Hanneman is accused of, which is unreasonable excessive force by shooting and killing Locke, who was startled out of his sleep while holding a weapon that he had legally. Hanneman is the only cop out of the 3 that showed up to serve that no-knock search warrant. He's the only one who fired his weapon. In Minneapolis, the names of overzealous law officers who injure or kill people, civilians in the line of duty, it's a part of public record that their names are revealed. But in some states, it's becoming more common that the names of bully killer cops are being kept as top secret. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Steffanie Rivers, and I want justice for Breonna Taylor because the police officers involved showed reckless disregard for her life and the lives of her neighbors. Her. So you're saying she essentially died on the floor right there?
Second that she got shot, she was.
Family, did the city of Birmingham, did anybody say, did the church, did anybody say there's more to? Hello and welcome to the conversation. We're talking about today, should killer cops be able to hide their identity? If you're wondering why some law enforcement agencies are allowed to withhold the names of killer cops or bully cops who hurt people, injure people, kill people in the line of duty, it's because of one law. That law is called Marcy's Law. And when it was passed in 2008 in California, the intent of Marcy's Law was to protect the privacy of citizens who had been hurt or injured by other private citizens. And they were fearful of being harassed or being intimidated as witnesses in upcoming cases. And that was why Marcy was the name of a person who was killed by another person, and her family started the crusade to get Marcy's Law passed because they wanted for private citizens to have the protection for their names not to be are automatically a part of public record. And so the intent of Marcy's Law certainly started out as honorable and a good thing. But since then, law enforcement has used Marcy's Law to claim victim status for bully killer cops who maim and kill people and then hide their identity to avoid public scrutiny. So Minneapolis is not one of those jurisdictions that uses Marcy's Law, and that's why we now know that Mark Henneman that's the cop who shot and killed Amir Locke. He has some unscrupulous behavior as part of his police file. Since Amir's shooting and killing on February 2nd, less than a month ago, we've learned that Mark Henneman has on his police record since 2015 when he started working as a cop at the Minneapolis Police Department. Hanneman has on his file that he gave illicit drugs to protesters to try to get them to stop protesting. He also has illegal search and seizure claims on his record. And he also has at least four complaints against him. Three of them are closed. One of them is still open, and he's only been at the Minneapolis Police Department since 2015, so less than 7 years. Now, why is this dude still working? Why is this dude still a police officer? We saw the video. What more could they be investigating? And I will say that I understand that police departments, as well as anyone, is due just cause or do their due diligence in an investigation, because when you just look at the video, or if the people who are doing the investigating just look at the video and then they just off of the video go on and terminate somebody, that person can come right back around and say you didn't do just cause, or you didn't investigate, you took the word, you were under pressure. And so nowadays these police stations, as well as anyone, they have to do their due diligence in investigating before they make a move. So I do understand that. But if you or I had done what he did in our jobs, we would have been fired a long time ago. We wouldn't be around to be in a position to hurt or kill anyone. But for some reason, these cops have so many lives when it comes to their behavior and their actions against citizens, especially unarmed Black people. They have so many chances, and they continue to rack up complaints, and they still get to keep their jobs. So we're going to stay on this and find out and make sure that Mark Hanneman is held accountable for his actions on that day. In Florida, we're going to turn to Florida. That was Minneapolis. In Florida, law enforcement agencies have been misusing Marcy's Law to hide the names of cops involved in the most egregious behavior while in the line of duty. And when they are forced to share the police records, it's one thing, things happen, and you think, it's like, you think it's just public record. Let me just go to the police department and I'm going to ask for the police report, and I'm going to be able to get that police report. But apparently that is not the case. A lot of police departments these days, they won't even share the police report. And if they are forced to share the police report due to the Freedom of Information Act, or what other hoops they make you jump through, then these days they started blocking out the names of the officers involved, also known as redacting the information, so that you can't even read. If you're reading the details of it, you don't even know the names of the people because they've blocked it out. But They have no problem dragging the victim, the real victim, through the mud, telling you their name. They have no problem with that. They don't have a problem telling you what this person is accused of doing based on this crooked ass cop who is under investigation. They don't have a problem with that. They don't have a problem telling you the past criminal record of someone who has that record has absolutely nothing to do with the issue at hand. They don't have a problem telling you all that information, but they can't even tell you the officer's name who was involved. I think if you are man or woman enough to be a police officer and pull a trigger or hit someone or put your knee on the neck of someone or shoot someone in the line of duty, then you should be man or woman enough to say, this is what I did and this is why I did it, and defend yourself in against public scrutiny, because you knew that that was what your title, what your position entailed if it ever came down to it. So let me know what you think. Do you think killer cops, bully cops should be able to hide their identities? Why or why not? I just told you what I think. They should not be able to hide their identities. Now, what started in one state, which was California around 2008, was when they passed the first Marcy's Law, has now spread to 13 other states. So if you know anyone in these states, they might want to see about trying to get it removed or changed, because that's one thing we've learned, if nothing else, is once you pass a law that that's the way it is forever and ever, amen, but that's just not the case. You can change. It can be one way 4 years from now, and 4 years later it can be a whole nother. You can remove the law or you can change the law, you can revise it. So if you know someone in any of these states, you might want to have them to look into Marcy's Law and how it's being used to protect bully, liar, killer cops in their jurisdiction. These states include California, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Montana, Nevada, Wisconsin, North Carolina, North Dakota, South Dakota, Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. Now, once the state legislature passes their own version of Marcy's Law, then it's up to the local jurisdictions. They have the option to start using Marcy's Law as they see fit. So in Louisville, Kentucky, it was standard operating procedure to release the identity of cops in public record when they abused their power, or when there was a question about what they did. The police, the names of the officers was always a part of the police report. And that's why we were able to find out so much about the names of the police officers involved in the Breonna Taylor unjustifiable murder, modern day lynching, because the local jurisdiction had not enacted it, even though Kentucky has it on the books. The Louisville Police Department, that municipality, hadn't enacted it. But guess what? They're going to change it. They're looking to change that, because once we found out what happened and we started blasting the names and the pictures all over social media of the police officers involved, now somebody is upset because we used our rights to talk about it and to protest and to bring forth more information that showed clearly that these cops acted with deadly force, and it was unjustified. Because of you already know the story. They were serving a no-knock search warrant at Breonna Taylor's apartment for somebody who was not Breonna Taylor, who was not there, who had been arrested earlier in the day. So there was even no need for them to even serve this no-knock search warrant. And in addition to that, we also found out in our investigating, maybe it came through regular media, but social media found out as well that the way in which they obtained the no-knock search warrant is they lied to a judge to get the no-knock search warrant. So they were just wrong all the way around. So former Louisville cop Brett Hankinson he's now on trial, not for Breonna Taylor's murder, but for wanton endangerment. And here's his picture. Brett Hankinson, he's one of those cops that went in and he's accused of wanton endangerment. That just means that this dude shot blindly into the apartment from the outside. He was outside on the backside, shot 10 times blindly, didn't know who it was going to hit, who it wasn't going to hit. Was it going to hit the intended person, which they knew it wasn't going to hit the intended person because the intended person had already been arrested earlier. So these people, they just don't, what's the term? DGAF. They just don't. Okay, they just don't. And some of those bullets that he shot into Breonna's apartment, aside from shooting and killing her, went through the wall into the neighboring apartment and could have killed the man, his wife, and their child who was in the adjacent apartment. So that's why he is on trial right now in Louisville for wanton endangerment. So we'll keep up with what's going on with that and keep you abreast of what's going on there. So if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. Now, as I was saying, somebody doesn't like that we meaning America, we meaning the world, we meaning citizens, taxpaying citizens. They don't like that we stood up for our rights and we stood up for justice for Breonna and her family. So now there's a chance that the city of Louisville might enact the Marcy's law. So if you know anybody in the Louisville area, please let them know that that is on the book. Some states, some jurisdictions have election days coming up in the coming days. And so while I understand that the political process is frustrating and can leave you feeling confused and maybe even defeated, it's issues like this Marcy's Law issue that prove how important it is to stay involved. And that means you need to know the issues and you need to vote on the issues. So while you're sitting at the house being all disgruntled and refusing to go vote, people are creating laws and passing laws that make you more of a victim. They're creating laws that victimize people who look like you and me, black and brown people, people of color, however you want to say it, your family, my family, your friends, my friends, could be me next time, could be you next time, because we remove ourselves from the conversation and from the process, and they like that. So don't do anything that's going to help them to victimize us more. Don't do it. So Marcy's Law, it allows these cops to victimize people and then they go ghost. They victimize people and then you don't even know who they are. So when you disappear from the political process, you don't even know who the enemy is. This law allows them to hide the enemy, victimize you, and then hide the enemy. So if their identity stays hidden, the public will never know their history of citizens' complaints or their records in the line of duty. And that is what's important. I was looking at something, listening to something, maybe it was NPR. I listen to NPR a lot. And they were saying that a lot of these police officers who do the unjustifiable shooting and killing and brutalizing and victimizing people. um that's not, it's not like they start out right there. They don't start out. It's like there's gateways to ending up where you pull your weapon on somebody and shoot them for no reason. And so it starts out with um, bullying people. It starts out with excessive complaints on your record. And as time goes on, these cops never get caught, what's the word? They never get, I was trying to be quiet and listen to myself if I can come up with the word. They never get punished. That wasn't the word I was looking for, but that will work. They never get punished. And so it continues on, and they think, oh, I got away with that. Well, it must be okay. And then let me do this. Oh, and that must be okay. And so before you know it, they end up going overboard, shooting somebody unjustifiably. And so it's that's why it's important to make reports when you have an encounter with a cop and it's just over the top crazy. Go on and make that report. Don't be afraid. You can't live your life being afraid to make a dang report. Okay, you got to stand up for yourself and your kids and let your kids see that they don't have to put up with stuff. Okay, quit living for just your scary self, and know that you're in this for somebody else. Okay, so Florida agencies in Florida. Now I'm going back to Florida because Florida is known for using Marcy's law to hide police officers' identities. They have they've used it to hide cops' identities who put a 15-year-old boy in a hospital. They used Marcy's law to hide cops' identities who fired bullets into a moving van. They've used Marcy's law to hide cops' identities who released the canine dog on drunk people and mentally ill people. Okay, so and they say things like, "Oh, I was." See, Marcy's law is about supposedly they're protecting the victim. So the cop will say, "Oh, the drunk person hit me," and now that they claim that the victim status, even though they sick the dog on the people. Or they'll say, oh, I got into a scuffle with a drunk person or a mentally ill person, and they hurt my hand. And now I'm the victim, even though I beat the hell out of them with my baton. Okay. So that's the way that they do it. So they're using now, there just is some things that just come along with the job. And I'm not saying that police should be used to being brutalized or themselves, but I'm saying there are some things that come along with the job. And if you're a cop, if you can't stand to get your hand hurt, you don't need to be a police officer. You don't need, and so we know they're just doing it. They're hiding behind Marcy's law, but we need to pay more attention to what's going on. So, in some elections that are coming up, it's your duty as a tax-paying citizen to know the issues and to ask questions. And some of the questions, in fact, in Texas, I live in Texas. We've had what's it called? Early voting for 2 weeks. Do you know you don't never hear from these people until they want your vote, and then you get all these texts talking about please, please vote for me, but I ain't heard from your ass since last 2 years ago when you wanted me to vote for you. Now I'm hearing from you again. So I've started sending them back messages saying, what's your stance on no-knock search warrants? I've been sending them messages saying, what's your stance on local policing, on defunding the police? What's your stance on Marcy's law? So you have to start questioning these people because they want something from you. And if they want something from you, that means you got the power. And you need to go ahead and ask them, look, if I give you my vote, this is what I expect from you. Or look at their record from the past 2 years or the past 4 years. And if they didn't do right by you or by the people who look like you, then they don't deserve your vote. And you need to tell them that face to face and tell them, look, you had 4 years, you had 2 years to get it together, and you didn't, therefore, you will not be getting my vote. And it's that simple. So we need to stay engaged and stop letting, and we have to think outside of the box. Things might sound good, but you know, that's the old saying, what looks good to you ain't necessarily good for you. And so some of these laws that they claim are just so good, it's going to be so great for your community. And then they turn it around and cops using it against you. So you have to be able to say, what if this law looks great right now, but what if this cop, what if these people do this, that, and the third to this law? Then how would it affect me then? I remember, what was it that just happened? And they were like, okay, I think it's coming to me. It was when the mask policy came to be um where you have to wear a mask on the airplane. And then there were so many passengers who were like rebelling against it. And then they were putting them on the putting them on the no fly list. Or that's what somebody on social media, they had proposed. Why don't the people who refuse to wear masks, do y'all agree we should put them on the no fly list? And now, on his face, that sound all right. I'm like, okay. But here's the thing. Here's what happens. These laws end up being turned around against Black people. And now, before you know it, can't no Black people fly because they all on no fly list, because we said, put everybody on the no fly list so don't wear a mask. You see what I'm saying? And see, then even though it's majority white folks who get on the plane and have all kind of issues why they don't want to wear the mask, but who's going to end up being affected by that? Somehow they're going to turn it around and make it Black people can't fly, get they on the no fly list. So I said to that person who posed it on social media, no, I don't want that because of what I just said. So we have to think. You got to play chess, people, not checkers. You got to think ahead. You got to be 2 steps ahead. And if you Black in America, you know that already. You got to be 5 steps ahead. So it ain't nothing new. I'm not telling you nothing new. You just have to apply it to other areas that you might not have applied it to. And so that's all I got for you tonight. Should killer cops be able to hide their identities? I say no. What say you? To find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thanks and